Iraq went through three wars. Unlike Syria, Libya, or the other countries, it all happened after the Arab Spring. With Iraq, we started with the sort of destruction of heritage or the losing of many of our sites from 1980, when the Iraq-Iran war started. In the 1980s, the government of Iraq lost quite a lot of its authority in the south, and as a result, many of the... Sorry, I'd better change this. At the beginning, let's say I'm going to go chronologically to show how this destruction was taking place. During the Iraq-Iran war, maybe not a lot happened, but the beginning of systematic looting of the sites in southern Iraq, that is mostly the Sumerian and the Babylonian sites. Quite a number of the antiquities started appearing in the Baghdad market, but it was 1991 with the beginning of the invasion of Kuwait by Iraq and then the Gulf War. Afterwards, the 13 provincial museums were completely looted, with an estimate of 5,000 artifacts were lost. And immediately after, with the international sanction, the Iraq government completely lost its control of the south, which meant that many of the sites were looted completely. That is much more, in fact, than later in 2003. And in the north, there were one or two, that is in the Assyrian capitals, some looting, not as much as in the south. And the most famous of them is it's the attempt to cut the head of a winged bull from Khurshabad, and it was cut into pieces, as you see it, like a cheese piece. But it was found, yet it's damaged. And these were the sites in the south. I'm just showing one example. This is the al-Aqarib, called in the south near Diwania, more or less into the desert. What happened is that by 94, with the increase in the looting in the south, the Iraq government and the antiquity department decided that the best way to stop this looting to some of the sites is to start digging. And that's how al-Aqarib was dug by quite a number of you would know Dr. Johnny George at the time. The trouble is, after 2003, the looting started again into the same site. It's a very rich site, Sumerian. 2003, and then Iraq became, the center of the news, especially with the looting of the Iraq Museum. This is one picture which shows the officials, Dr. Tony George and the Director General, looking at their offices. And this is how it started, really. The looters first started with the offices in the Department of Antiquity by looting, in fact, most of the computers and the furniture. Then the other place where such a thing happened was the National Library. Unfortunately, in the National Library, most of the documents from the history of the archival documents from the history of Iraq, the late Ottoman and early. Yeah, this is the National Library, the photograph of that, because it was burnt, and you could see the books being completely burnt in this lower picture. In the Iraq Museum, I've just put one or two photographs of her. This is an iconic piece. It's the lion from Tel Harmal, just outside Baghdad, and Old Babylonian. The looters sometimes, if they couldn't carry something or move it, they tried. I think what they tried to do is to cut the head and take the head away. And being terracotta, it was really smashed to pieces. Another victim of the immediate war events after the war was one of the last monuments from the monarchy, which came to an end in 1958. This is the palace. It was bombed by the coalition bombs, but the trouble is that at the time the Iraqi government has put their electronic communication inside it, and it became a victim to, and so more or less we don't have now, apart from the royal Hashemite tombs, we have the royal cemetery, we have nothing left from that period. 2006. So 2006, there is another period of violence. It started with the mosque at Samarra, when it was completely, again, destroyed, most probably by the Islamic extremists. And as a result of that, the sectarian war in Iraq really went into a phase of violence. 17 shrines were destroyed immediately after this event. That's one of them in Mosul, just outside Mosul, Yahya al-Qasim, Imam Yahya al-Qasim shrine. And the thing is about it is that this shrine was partly destroyed during the 2006 violence, and then restored by the Antiquity Department, and then I will show you later it was again destroyed by ISIS. One more very unique minaret in Iraq, Ana minaret, one of the last we had, and it was again destroyed during the 2006-8 violence, and the excuse for it, again, like the minaret in Aleppo, that it used to be probably an observation, or they were afraid that it was used as an observation. It ended up as a pile of ruin, and there has been an attempt to rebuild it completely again, but I'm not sure. I don't know what happened to it, because Ana is now under the control of ISIS again, and so I have no idea what has happened to it. The violence not only targeted buildings, shrines, and so on. This is Baghdad's famous Mutanabbi Street, which is the street that has all the bookshops, and every Friday, the street itself becomes sort of a book market, and people come to it. And as a result of that, on the 6th of March 2006, it was bombed. 200 people were killed. And, fortunate, I mean, I don't know if it is a fortunate thing, but later on, there was a determination by both the government and the people that this place is to be returned. And it is now back to its, in fact, even better than it used to be before. Churches did not escape. In Baghdad, there were several churches were had. This one is in Mosul, and I think this is the Patriarch residence and church, which was also destroyed at that time. And we come to ISIS. ISIS, of course, the first thing, they burst into Iraq earlier than June, but June 2014 when they arrived in Mosul. But they were there before that. Hatra, it was under the control of ISIS from April. So, but at the beginning, these sites were not really touched immediately. It was Mosul and Sinjar and so on that got most of the destruction, and they were at the start were the Islamic monuments. In Mosul, this is a modern monument. Okay, it's in memory for Ibn al-Athir from the 12th century, but that was the first destruction that took place in Mosul. Then they went and destroyed the statue of a poet, Abu Tamam, and then it was the Husseyniyas, mostly the Husseyniyas from of the Shia, which is the mosques, the Shia mosque. They went right through them, and these are another Husseyniya. And then we start with the old mosques, which are not necessarily Shia, but Sunnah, and the majority are of Sufi shrines. What is very important to know here is, as you see, the sort of conical dome, which is very much so a characteristic of the 12th, 13th, and 14th centuries, and it continues in Mosul and in that area. Mosul itself has about 13 or 14 of these conical domes. Mosul and its region. The whole of Iraq doesn't have more than 30. 13 of them in Mosul, and they were all destroyed. So, I mean, the loss of that period is, I think this one is the Imam Aoun. The biggest one that got a lot of attention in the press and so on was Nabi Yunus. Nabi Yunus is on top of an Assyrian mound, and an ancient mound. And again, most of it is modern, but the minaret is from the beginning of the 20th century, and the dome, of course, goes back to the original. At the bottom, in the 1990s, the Muzahim, an archaeologist, was able to dig at the bottom the Assyrian level, and found a rather unique entrance to, I think it's a castle. Is it a palace, Paul? Yeah, it's the palace of Sargon. Is it Sargon or Sinagr? Ashurbanipal. So he founded one of these winged bulls, Assyrian bulls, but rather unique because it's not made of one stone, but made of blocks of stones. Rather very nice looking limestone work. He buried it again, hoping that they will not find, ISIS will not find it. But I was told last week that they did find it. So what happened to it now, we don't know. And they started digging there. So that's Nabi Yunus after the destruction. Again, I've come back to Imam Yahya al-Qasim that I showed first in 2006 and now again, and this time it's completely gone. It's one of the very interesting piece work inside. You could see the dome inside, the intricate work that was done. Christian places did not escape, of course. Again, it was interesting. The Christian churches at the beginning, when they came to Mosul and its area, were left to an extent on their own, probably looted, but not destroyed like the Islamic ones. The Mar Bahnam was first looted. We can say looted because ISIS ordered all the monks to leave and wouldn't let them take anything with them. What happened afterwards to the manuscripts or anything inside the monastery, we don't know. But then it was destroyed only a few weeks ago. Outside Mosul, we go down with the spread of ISIS into northern Iraq. This is Imam al-Dor, which is about 30 kilometers from Samarra, and that was one of the first victims of ISIS. This conical shrine is counted one of the best. It's decorated and beautifully done outside and inside. That's as you see, the destruction is completely complete. I doubt if any of these places will be able to be restored. Another place in Tikrit itself is a mosque, count a mosque or a shrine, and it sort of has a very interesting legend around it, where there are 40 martyrs died on that side. And as you see, it's two pictures. I've got two photographs, one of the latest reconstruction and one of an earlier one from the 1940s. Shows it. And then the destruction complete. This is supposed to be a Yazidi shrine. So, as you can see, every single nearly religion in the area had suffered with the ISIS. This one again, this shrine is Zubeida in Sinjar. It is really worshipped if we had or as a pilgrimage to all religions in the area. It's a Shia shrine, but the Yazidis themselves also go and worship there, and it was completely completely destroyed. Mosul Library, they put the books outside and burnt them. I was told that really they didn't burn everything. They only burnt the foreign books and Sufi books, the books on the Sufi order. So it's something with the head. And then comes the next step, or the next phase, is when they started going at the archaeological sites and objects. Here is the Mosul Museum. These photographs were taken in 2009. Most of the objects in the museum were taken to Baghdad before 2003. But the larger objects, like these statues from Hatra and many of the Assyrian reliefs, were still in situ, because most of them were built. So they thought they are too heavy for looters. No one thought ISIS will do something else by really hacking all these statues. One of the nicest of one very famous statue from Hatra belongs to a judge. Again, was destroyed completely. In the same video, I have to also mention that most of the photographs come from ISIS sources. It's their videos. We know nothing more than that, because they won't allow anyone to get near these places. This is from Nineveh, the Nergal Gate. It was in the same video with the museum. So, but I don't think it happened at the same time. All these videos are semi-edited, and sometimes it takes quite a long time to prepare all these things. And the way that they've damaged the face of the winged bulls is really emblematic, as if we say in Arabic, we say we go against your eyes. It's just showing us that that's what we do to you. Nimrud, the Northwest Palace, and they also went in. This is the entrance to the throne room and part of the reliefs from the other rooms in the palace. They went in. You see in the corner there is one where the ISIS boring into a hole into this the sculpture room, because it was a precaution by the excavator later on, Muzahim, is that he sealed the doors, and he got the money to seal the doors from the British Institute, who sent him some money to do this work. Well, it didn't stop ISIS. They just went and dig a hole into the wall and get in. Then the relief are being piled out outside. And this is what happened to the palace afterwards. It's the loss which one doesn't think about it immediately. One doesn't think immediately, is that these winged bulls, we've lost, Iraq lost about 13 of them and the only ones that are now survived is in the Iraq Museum. About 6 of them, 2 from Khursabat, 2 from Nimrud, and 2 small ones also from Nimrud. That's the Khursabat ones in the Iraq Museum. Hatra, again, like in Palmyra, but they haven't until now destroyed any building, or we don't know. what happened inside Hatra. Only they showed, ISIS showed a video when they were hacking some of the reliefs on the walls of the temples. I'm just putting this one last photograph, is what happens not even with ISIS from afterwards. This is Samarra minaret, and after the liberation of Tikrit, because Tikrit was under their control for some time, and the militias who went to help in the liberation, when they came back, they stopped at Samarra and filled the bottom of there. So it's another kind of damage with so many of their own slogans, their names, which militia group they are in, sometimes giving the names of father. I was even told last week that after the liberation of Tikrit, and there was looting quite a lot, one of the Abbasid buildings there, it's called the Crusader Dome. It's not, it's a mausoleum for some of the Abbasid caliphs. That has been destroyed also. So the destruction is continuous, and we don't know which side it is. Sorry.